An archaeologist server is a disinterested, incentivized, third-party node operator on the Sarcophagus network. This means they are offering a service in which they are being paid, but they have no interest in what is being put on the network. To understand what an archaeologist server is, first we need to understand how Sarcophagus works. Sarcophagus is a blockchain-enabled digital deadman switch. A deadman switch is typically used in heavy machinery like a train. Typically, there is a switch that a conductor needs to apply pressure to. If the conductor were to become incapacitated in any way, they would release the pressure from the switch and the train would slow to a halt. That idea was taken and used on the Sarcophagus network to protect data for a specified time. The way it works on Sarcophagus is that a file is put on the network by a user. That user is known as an embalmer. That file is first encrypted by the embalmer so that the data is not in the open or viewable by anyone who does not have the private key to decrypt it. Then the embalmer selects a node operator. The operator is known as an archaeologist. The archaeologist then encrypts the file a second time, and the result is known as the sarcophagus. This is where the deadman switch comes into play. The archaeologist will keep its outer layer of encryption on the file for a specified time. There are two ways the encryption can be affected. The embalmer can extend the time for the archaeologist to keep their encryption. This is known on the network as rewrapping. The other option is the embalmer does not attest and the outer layer of the encryption is removed and the archaeologist's job is done. The sarcophagus now has one layer of encryption that can only be decrypted by the private key of the first encryption. All throughout the lifecycle of Sarcophagus, Sarco, an ERC20 token, is used as a medium of exchange to pay fees to the archaeologist. When an archaeologist server is set up, there are a few requirements that are needed. The server needs to be linked to a domain to allow users to interface with it. Ethereum is needed to cover any gas fees. Sarco is needed to cover the bond or collateral on a sarcophagus. This collateral is to incentivize the archaeologist to avoid any malicious activity. If the archaeologist server does something such as unwrapping a sarcophagus early, that collateral they put up is burned. Parameters also need to be set. The parameters include, but are not limited to, the following. There are fees required to accept a sarcophagus, the date and time in the future that a sarcophagus will keep a file encrypted. There are also some personal decisions such as which ETH address will cover gas and be paid fees, or how much Sarco the server will hold in the contract to allow for bonding. The archaeologist server is an important piece of the network. Each server runs the back-end process which links multiple networks to allow for an easier user experience. The server posts the sarcophagus to the permaweb of the Arwe network, covers the Ethereum gas fees, and provides a bond of Sarco tokens all at the same time. The server then functions as a deadman switch and will only decrypt the outer layer when the user does not attest before the decided time and date. This summary is meant to give you an understanding of what an archaeologist server provides to the network. But there are things such as the parameters and slashing events that need to be covered in much more detail in future videos.